Peace, love, and light, family. It is your girl Ada coming to you here live in a living color with Chickasha Rising for another live and informative topic and video here on this Thursday. I do hope that everyone is doing well. Gonna be diving in, excuse me, talking about a topic that I stated that I was going to make some videos on and looking at the writing on the wall. Looking at the writing on the wall in the aspect of the economy, America, the establishment, white supremacy is collapsing. In essence of that collapsing, we are rising and we should be rising. Going to be talking about shanty towns, the coming shanty towns. A lot of you probably don't know what a shanty town is, or AKA Hoovervilles, the Hoovervilles of the Great Depression, the era. And now that we've got these waves of massive layoffs that will be hitting us in 2019, you will look around your inner cities or wherever you live and start to see Hoovervilles, shanty towns that are taking over American cities in massive numbers. Now, these shanty towns back in the Great Depression era were not new. Anyone who's seen the famous old Civil War movie Gone with the Wind, you might remember that shanty town that was on the outskirts of Atlanta, and it was occupied by the true indigenous people of America, the so-called free slaves, but they weren't slaves, they were already free. Okay? How can a slave be free? They were not slaves, they were free under bad contracts with who they were doing business with and poor whites. These shanty towns, we're going to start these reappear. We may have always or currently may see them in the towns or cities where we reside, where you've got massive people who are homeless on the street, living in tents, living in filth, living in waste. There's a lot of them in most towns in California. California is really bad. Down in Louisiana is really bad there. Chicago. These pictures that I'm showing you guys are from all over America. Some are where I'm at, Minneapolis, San Diego, Texas, and a lot of these are historical pictures of the shanty towns of the Great Depression. Look how similar they look. It's the same shit. It's the same thing that we are going through, and people are being, they can't afford rent. They can't afford mortgages. They, can't afford anything. So they're living out in the street in these tents, right? During the Great Depression in the 1930s, there was mass unemployment, which is where we are right now. A lot of people are not employed. A lot of people are underemployed and are not making what they used to at one point in time. So the quality of life is going down the drain in America. It said 12 million Americans, about 25% of the labor force, were out of work, and many suffered poverty, deprivation, and homelessness. These Hoovervilles of the Great Depression, that the pictures that you're seeing here, or shanty towns, became a common sight. Now, we're going to see more and more of this across America, not just at these locations where we see them, because as people become laid off, this is what we're going to see. And it says the nickname Hooverville was given to shanty towns that sprang up across the nation during the Great Depression. The name was a reference to Herbert Hoover, who was the president of the United States during the start of the Great Depression, and he was widely blamed for it. This is nothing new. What are they going to do when everything starts to really hit the fan? They're going to blame Trump. Now, you guys know where I stand politically. I'm not aligned with any political party. I don't associate myself with Democrats, Republican, Green Party, Yellow Party, whatever you want to call it. I'm not affiliated with this system or construct, okay, of what they call the government, okay? They're going to blame him for the coming collapse. But this has been long overdue. See, this has been brewing since before he even got in office, going all the way back to Obama, going all the way back to the Clintons. No regulation of the markets, nothing. So this is where we're at. Okay, it says, in these Hoovervilles, throughout America, in the Great Depression. We're going to see these now. Where were they situated? This is where we can look at. History repeats itself. History is repeating itself. It says, Hoovervilles were situated practically anywhere. These shanty towns were situated anywhere. The large camps were set on the worst type of unused public land, often on the outskirts of towns and cities. So that is not where you want to be when shit hits the fan. On the outskirts of towns and cities. Many were established near rivers, as above pictures show, or ponds that helped people have some access to water. Small camps, the sites in towns sprang up in any available space. You had them in Manhattan, New York, you had them in Jersey, you had them all over the United States during the Great Depression. There were a lot of Hoovervilles and shanty towns in the Great Depression, and these are going to spring up across America once again. This is why it's so essential that we, as a people, learn to be self-sufficient, be close with our families, and having a community of our own, separate, setting up our nations and lines and tribes and things like that to begin to rebuild what has been lost to us, and totally separating ourselves from this system so that we have no affiliation with them, and to have and be separate, because we've been commanded to be separate and to thrive and get along with each other and ourselves. There is no specific, people like a hook. Okay, well, how many shanty towns were there in the Great Depression? What can we look at? No one knows. That's how many it was. But there were literally millions and millions of homeless people during the Great Depression. So it seems reasonable to estimate that there were several thousands. Some have estimated that there were over 500 Hoovervilles that sprang up in 1929 and increased in number to over 6,000 in the 1930s. So there you go. So like I said, there were lots of people that were homeless. We're looking at that today, where we've got GM. Okay, they've laid off close to 4,000 people, white collar jobs. So, like I said in my video yesterday, these folks are about to feel the pain. They don't know what it's like to struggle. They don't know what it's like to be at the bottom. So you're going to not have a lot of people that are going to be able to take it. Okay, and then they say, oh, we're laying off GM, these workers and things like that, but we're going to add 1,000 jobs at the Flint location. 1,000 jobs don't really do anything, but whatever. Electrolux closing in Memphis. The plant is expected to lose over 530 jobs. Those people are set to lose their jobs come 2020. AT&T, they are laying off people. They're cutting jobs. They're quote unquote restructuring. IBM to cut 310 jobs here. Tesla has cut a lot of jobs. Ford has come out to say that they will cut at least 1,000 jobs. So, as they boast and say, oh, the America economy is doing great, etc., we need to be paying attention to this as the so-called Black person, African American. We are not those terms. We need to start thinking about who we really are. And who we really are the true indigenous people of the Americas. And knowing our identity and know what stake we have in the land that we stand on, which is our land. Okay? So, let's get that understood and understood. A lot of things and how these shacks were built in the Great Depression. They had like anything that they would be able to use. Right now you're seeing tents popping up. Tents were used back then. Wood shacks, they would use wood, stones, loose boards, crates, cardboard, scraps of other material, bricks or whatever. The reason for a lot of people being homeless was because so many people lost their houses when they could not pay their mortgages or taxes. People who rented their homes fell behind with the rent and were evicted by the bailiffs. This is coming. This is coming, guys. So history repeats itself. This is coming. There were so many people who lived in these Hoovervilles in the Great Depression that, crazy. But they're saying that the largest population of the Hoovervilles during that time was in Seattle, the state of Washington, and served as a home for 1,200 people. The shanty town was so big that people established their own community government, elected a mayor as their leader to settle any disputes. The Seattle Hooverville covered 9 acres of land on its tidal flats adjacent to the port of Seattle. Seattle was also the location of 7 other shanty towns. And a lot of these shanty towns back then were consisted of both black and white people, immigrants from all over the world who shared in these campsites during the Great Depression. Many men became hobos during the 1930s, searching for jobs anywhere in the country. The easiest way to travel across the country was by train, and shanty towns, nicknamed hobo jungles, sprang up by most of the railroad stations. So this is we need to look at history. We need to look at history. All of this stuff is going to happen once again. And with everything that's going on within the economic climate, within inner cities in America, we have to look at us as a people and where we are and look at what we can do to sustain ourselves. Our objective, our goal, our agenda should be sustainability and being productive, amongst ourselves and worrying about ourselves, not other people, but paying attention to what's going on around us to know that what we can expect. So this is why I'm going to start making these segments, and I'm not done. I'm going to end it right there. But this is just something to make you think about these shanty towns of the Great Depression. What were they like? And we see several shanty towns popping up across America still to this day. These tent cities, it's a huge problem. It is a huge problem. And they're popping up all over the United States of America, all across inner cities. This is what's going on. And it's only going to get worse as more and more people begin to get laid off. This is what's going on. We need to look at this stuff. And it's time for us as individuals to look at history, learn from it, and not only learn from it, apply it to where we are today. And being able to learn from what history has taught us and what the truth has taught us with all the information that's coming out. See, we can't rely on what they say and how they say everything went down. We have to research this stuff. But this is what it was. You had numerous people unemployed, no job. These shanty town sites were gross and nasty and but I just want us to think about this and look at this, look at history of the Great Depression and look at where we are now and try to look back at that and see where we are today. We see this every day with everything that's going on. But peace, light, and love, family. I hope everyone enjoys their day. I will be coming forth with more shantytown information, as well as information on the Great Depression and relating it to where we are today, what it's looking like today, things like that. Peace, light, and love.